Hello, welcome back to Radio Meghpeon. We are very sorry to keep you waiting for the next episode because mostly we were busy with stuffs including our vacations. Now all of our volunteers are back and we are targeting for making new episodes for you. This time we will be more focusing on business and entrepreneurship in Sweden by Indian or Bangladeshis. So let's start.
रेडियो मेघपियोन बीते हुए दिनों के यादें कुछ गाने कुछ बातें.
Hi Joydeep and Shameek. Welcome to Meghpeon Radio. This is Dyuti with you. And to our listener, today we have Joydeep, who is a serial entrepreneur, and Shameek, who co-founded and leads venture capital funded startup Trust Race. Let's start with Joydeep. Tell us, how long have you been here and what have you been doing?
Yeah, hi Jyoti. I am here since 14 years in Sweden and before that for about 5 years in Germany, and I have been in the IT industry for most of my career, having worked for a kind of a US based group. Which where I was heading the Scandinavian operations, and since I have, for the past 3 years, that operation grew, of course, in all 4 countries, and there's a lot of responsibility. But somewhere I found it, I've done the best I could there because there's nothing more to do than what I'd achieved there.
Okay.
So I did either. The play was outside of Scandinavia, or I should start something on my own. So I decided I'd take a change in career, and I started into my own journey where I started a Swedish company, bought out a small Indian e-commerce company, and also started a non-profit in Sweden. So all within a span of probably about 2 months in 2018 December. So since I have been working in sustainability and focused on sustainability in e-commerce industry, and I also leverage my background in IT and services to support companies, especially with interesting IT projects in e-commerce, and that's what I do.
Okay. Since you said about sustainability, could you please give us a little brief about that?
So sustainability is a very wide topic, and we of course have Shameek on this call. Their organizations have done a really wonderful job in sustainability. For example, they work on one aspect of sustainability, but as probably when Shameek will introduce this topic, it's a very wide topic. It's a very wide topic.
Yeah.
And in this, I primarily focus on the implication of sustainability for e-commerce and for the online business. So we try to confine our activities to that area and specific to some recommendations from the sustainable development goals and so on. Shameek, if you would like to add anything there.
Yeah, I'll come to him now. I heard that Joydeep and Shameek, you are very good friend. So Shameek, how do you know Joydeep, and could you tell us about your journey?
Sure, Jyoti. So, Joydeep and us, we go a long way. Of course, Joydeep came maybe a couple of years earlier than me, moved into Sweden. And of course, I think he was in Germany also for a very long time. My journey started in Sweden when we moved in 2009 July. Good that we came in during summer months because that's the best time to move to Sweden, as you know. The most attractive period of the year, which actually then you always know that after the winter, which comes in this November, December, you know that you can look forward to June, July there. So yeah, that's what, and then of course that time the number of families in Sweden or in Stockholm specifically, Indian families were very limited. So we pretty much knew most of the families, and I think we still continue to know them really well. All the kids have grown in front of our eyes. I think this is the family we have outside of India, which is always very, very pleasant and always a good way to bond in a new country also, because you have your roots associated. At the same time, you are able to make new friends and with different cultural backgrounds there. So yeah, that's how we met. I think we met in some social functions. We then of course met over some dinners and all that, and we have continued meeting. It also happened that we initially, when Joydeep was in Nagaro, I was in HCL, we were both in the outsourcing industry, so we have exchanged notes also sometimes there. But I think professionally, I grew much more closer to Joydeep when he started, because he started his entrepreneurial journey a few months before than I did. Though Frustrace started in December of 2016, I was in stealth mode till July 2019 when I came full time into Frustrace. Before that, it was the two other founders who were running the show or building the idea, because of course it was a startup. We could not have all the four co-founders fully involved in it for obvious financial reasons, as well as the idea has to start growing to a certain level when all the four could have gone together, right?
Yeah.
So just as you were mentioning or discussing with Joydeep, sustainability. So what we are doing is we are a product traceability and supply chain transparency platform. We focus on the SDG goal number 12 predominantly, which is responsible production and conscious consumption there. Of course, through that, we also support multiple different SDG goals there. But fundamentally, what we are trying to do is that, and we are focusing predominantly in the fashion and the textile industry, which is the second biggest industry globally, right? After the food, globally, fashion and textile is almost a US $3.5 trillion industry. But the challenge that industry has is that it has got a very, very high product footprint related to environmental impact, social impact, and ethical impact. And the supply chain is very, very complex because it runs through all the continents. It can start anywhere in Australia, New Zealand, travel through Asia, in China, Vietnam, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, and then end up in Europe, Southern Europe or Eastern Europe or US there. So which means that a very, very simple sweater or a very complex winter jacket can have a significant amount of footprint across the globe. And we are helping the fashion companies first to unravel the supply chain and then to take corrective actions to improve their sustainability performance across the supply chain. And this is becoming highly critical because especially in Europe, the consumers are demanding more sustainable products and not just greenwashed products, but products where the brands are able to tell the full story of the product, who has made it, how it has been made, where it is made, and what is the impact it has got on the environment and society there. Secondly, there is a significant number of regulations coming in from the European Union and specific or individual European countries. For example, Germany has German transparency law, Norway has got the Norwegian environmental law, the UK has got Modern Slavery Act and all. And now the governments are putting a significant amount of stress on it there. So there's a significant amount of compliance issue. And finally, if you are a company, you can actually challenge a giant using sustainability. I don't know if you know the brands such as Asket and Fjallraven and all these.
Yes.
For example, Asket is actually is challenging H&M in their own turf, right? Whereas H&M is a 25 billion euro company, and Asket is hardly a 25 billion, not even 20 million dollar company, but they can go in the on the billboards and say that, hey, buy product from us. H&M product sucks, right? And they are very, very on the face kind of a brand, but very sustainable, right?
Okay.
So it shows that the power of sustainability, if you are not geared on it, I don't think any company will exist in 8 to 10 years time, however big you are now. It is in that point of inflection there.
Oh, doing
So,
good for the planet.
So, planet and also the people on the planet.
Yeah, I agree. So now to Joydeep, you're also working within the apparel sector through this circular fashion. What are you doing there?
Well, we have, before we go there, I have to just think of just going back to the time that I know Shameek.
Okay.
If you look at Shameek and me, we are like, if you know the comic strip Asterix and Obelix.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
Is this calm, big guy, who's moving the mountains.
Yeah.
And Asterix is a small guy who's into too many different things and is a little bit, fast on always thinking the next things.
Yeah, but who is Asterix and who is Obelix here?
I'm the Asterix who's always into different things, whereas Obelix is pretty focused and has been moving his mountain slowly, but nevertheless very well. So that's Shameek. And we should.
I have actually not read too much of Asterix and Obelix, or not read at all. I will now start reading it.
I have to read Asterix and Obelix. And we should also congratulate Shameek has been selected in Forbes, Technology Council. So I think this is a handful of CPOs and CIOs who are usually nominated for it. So it's a really good,
That's really great. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Joydeep and Dyuti. Thanks a lot.
So
I think more than Shameek, I think it is Trustface which found a place there. It just happened they have one place for the representation, so they found my name there. But yeah, but it is a good recognition because I think the topic demands some kind of at least we can share something with the world. Let's see how it goes.
Now I have a question to both of you. How many, we don't have many startups in Sweden led by Indians. So how easy or hard was to grow this business?
maybe I can, Shameek, just brief, give a background here. So I have been involved, I don't think it has anything to do with being Indian or from any other nation, because Stockholm is quite an international place in this startup field. And there, if you can find your cut and the calling, I think then you can actually move a lot of different things. And for me, I have been involved primarily with Swedish startups. It's not actually a lot of Indians, Swedish startups, to help support them to take their business off the ground. So as you just talked about, like circular fashion, this Tank, which is a software that we developed by which any brand can open their own rent fashion. So, but it is a kind of a software out of the box for them. So similar, there are jewelry companies that we have helped who have launched brands in circular fashion, but how to extrapolate this brand to across Europe. So it is more like a marketing support help. We are running an accelerator program with openinnovators.org, which is a non-profit that I found. So we have about 750 odd venture capitalist, angel funds, and so investors who have consented to be a part of this program. So we lend a helping hand to entrepreneurs who want to start on their, sustainability journey in e-commerce, for example. So we just create that portfolio. We start helping them with their, pitch deck and helping fix it, and then we take it in front of the 750 investors. Offering to set up meetings and encouraging these investors to come in and invest in this kind of green startups. So it's just a matter of finding the space, where you can fit your service, and of course there has to be a demand for it. With this pandemic, the e-commerce business has done really well. Things have taken off any of these kind of online initiatives. So I think it was a good time to be in that space. So we could help a lot of different companies. But Shameek, of course, is focused on his own. So probably, and as far as I see, Shameek's company, Trust Race, they also do it the same thing in a different way. They are helping many different companies become more transparent, map their supply chain, and bring out traceability in a more defined way. So it's a matter of finding the right fit. Over to you, Shameek.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think, Dyuti, yes, if you ask me, I think there are actually companies who have got Indian founders there, and there have been quite a few, right? In the past also. There have been people from ex-Ericsson, from ex-IBM who have started companies. Some of them have scaled up and then they've moved to different parts of the world. There, in fact, there is a community called SciTech, which is Sweden-India Technology Community, which has got people like Sanjeev, people like Mahesh. So there are quite a few companies which are like founded in Sweden, in Stockholm and Gothenburg and Malmo. There, and many of them are people who are ex-KTH or have come and studied, or they have been done their PhDs in KTH or Stockholm School of Economics or Karolinska and all that there. If you ask me, percentage of companies founded in this fashion compared to the scale of the community, yes, it has been low, but it has been picking up very fast. There is also a community which is like the second generation of the Indian parents. Like you have got Pranay, who has started Flick, and they have started the company in Sweden, but they have a setup in Bangalore, right? So those kind of companies. So lot of Sweden, India or Indo-Sweden Sweden kind of companies are there. Of course, some of them are in the stage of startup, some of them are in the stage of scale up, and maybe some of them have grown up and then they have been acquired by some other companies also there. If you ask me, and absolutely I agree with Joydeep. I think Sweden is a very, very fertile place because it's a very straightforward for any person to set up an company and get a lot of support. Support not in the terms of just mentoring, but financial support. And I think we are the classic example of it because, yes, we are 4 co-founders who are of Indian origin. 2 of us live in Sweden, the other 2 live in India. But when it came to our idea, we took the idea and spoke to the fashion industry or the fashion veterans in Sweden, like Eva from Houdini, Ellen from Philippa K, David from Iceberg, and they wholeheartedly supported us with their time, gave us the mentoring, because we were total outsiders into the fashion industry. And they also sat in front with us in front of Vinnova, which is the Swedish innovation agency, when we applied for a grant. So, and Vinnova gave us the grant because they believed in what we are doing. We did the whole interview in English there. And I still remember Eva going and telling to them, to the interview board, that the world leads with. It is either Sweden gets the first calling through trust trace, or it will be somebody else, which was a great validation of our idea and efforts at that point of time, and that was very early stage in 2017.
Oh, that's great.
There. So it is, and if you just look at the community, the startup community in Sweden, it is in Stockholm. It is fabulous. You can just raise your hand, go to a Norken, go to an Epicenter, go to a WeWork. There are 15 people who will just come and support. I am part of multiple founders community. We just post I post a message that, hey, I'm looking for so and so kind of a person or so and so kind of a support. I get responses from all across in less than, I would say, 8 hours there. So it is a very friendly, open community. If you just have the will, and also you believe in the community, you will get a lot more support there. And of course, you need to have that the guts to take the plunge. I think, if you ask me, I am a corporate animal. I used to love my air miles. I used to love my hotel points, and it was a classic thing. But yeah, I think in my case, I think the calling came in when I went into the executive MBA program, and there I saw that the potential that of if you want to do something entrepreneurial, what you can drive. And then of course I found 3 great co-founders, which was to start with, and then we have been really blessed with the employees that we have got and the customers that we have got, and of course friends like Joydeep, right? All has come together. Yes, I know there is very rare possibility that you have your first startup and that is a success. In our case, I think we have been blessed. I think some good karma by our parents or somebody else, which we are figuring out now. But if you ask me, if you have the will and the wish to do a startup, I think this equation between Sweden and India, I think that is a very excellent setup there.
So,
one other thing that I'd like to add here,
yeah, please.
is, as I said, I was working for this company, and I used to head the Scandinavian market, and then we had a lot of people who used to come from India, as rotational employees into Sweden.
Okay.
So probably we picked up to 1,000 people into Stockholm alone. And out of this 1,000 people, it is very normal for a lot of them to leave your employment and then settle into Stockholm. They eventually their wives also find a job, their children go into school. So and it all happens in a really nice way, because it's like you're feeding this ecosystem in Sweden. A little bit of churn for any Indian company doesn't hurt that much. But eventually you will be able to, push in these kind of technology manpower into Sweden, which desperately needs them. Mm-hmm. But what happens, a lot of these people who have settled into Sweden, they work in different specific areas. Like, for example, we had customers in security services. We had customers in, financial services. A lot of these people, I've seen that they have been able to work in their industry, spot gaps where they can possibly build solutions. And since the past 2.5 years, I've been observing that out of about 100 people that we facilitated to settle in Sweden, at least 10 of them are now kind of trying to be entrepreneurs. They have come out with ideas, they've registered a company, even some of them have gone on to build teams and start building solutions. Some of them work on very interesting model where they work, like Shameek was saying, he used to work part-time to be able to focus his, to be financially, be independent while building his idea. A lot of them are working on that model. And it is a really encouraging environment in Sweden, so I would encourage a lot of more people to come out who think that they are on the verge of breakthrough or idea which needs support, we will be happy to support them. But as Shameek was saying, there's Vinova, there's ALMI, these are all government bodies in Sweden which will also come forward to support. Somebody has a strong business idea, and of course it has to be backed by a proper business plan. And if you are from the specific industry and you have worked in that industry and you've been able to spot a gap, there are takers in Sweden to back you with this kind of ideas.
That's really great.
Yeah. And I think also let's not.
Yeah, Shameek, please continue.
Yeah, I was just saying, let's not forget, I think what we are talking about is typically tech entrepreneurship, right? But there is also other entrepreneurs, like you have got Indian street food, which was started by Dheeraj, and it's a great success story. There are also a lot of other guys who have done really well, who are not from the tech background, but it is also a good amount of entrepreneurship, and where they have also been supported by the system there. There. But yeah, I absolutely agree with Joydeep. I think the good news is that I think we see more of tech entrepreneurs coming up from the Indian community in Sweden, and I think we are all there to support anybody who is trying to set up something, either right out of the college or after some amount of corporate roles there. Both, and I think there's no good or bad time in Sweden to start your entrepreneurship journey. It is just that when you believe that you are ready for it, you should take the plunge. And of course, you need a good idea, a great team from your side also. But yeah, absolutely agree that the ecosystem is a very, very open ecosystem, and you will get a lot of support there. And let's not forget, we have a very excellent example between the tech community between California and India, right? Of course, it's a very, very scaled up version of what we have in Sweden, but we can easily do we can move much faster in using the similar example here.
I have a question for both of you. What things people need to be aware of while starting a business here?
Shameek, if you would like to go first.
Yeah, sure. So I think first of all, I think as in my view, and I think we hinted in the earlier part of it is also is, first of all, I think you should be ready you should be solving a bigger problem. I think the bigger the problem, the bigger the challenge, the bigger the need for a good solution, a scalable solution, and I think that your idea should be focused on solving a very, very big problem. I think something like a world hunger kind of a problem there. Second, you should have a team. I think if you're in the journey of startup or entrepreneurship, I think it is always better to have at least 2. I would say 3 or 4 is the best. The reason a group of 3 or 4 is the best, the reason is that it is a very, very difficult journey, and if you are just alone, you will lose steam on that. If you have a group of people, yes, you will have dissonance, you will have contradictory ideas, but I think that is how you will develop a much more consensus-driven democratic process there in developing the idea. The first is the challenge, second is the idea, second is the team, and third is you should be very, very focused on executing and pivoting your idea. When I say executing, you will have some broad solution and then you will implement it, but you should be also ready to take the feedback and pivot it in a different angle, right? So if you're open with these 3 things and keep this going, I think you will be able to find your ground in the first 2 years, which is the critical phase. Because any startup idea, if you take, first 2 years are very, very critical for you to be, because most of the startups will typically go under in the first 2 years, more than 95% of it. So if you are surviving the first 2 years, you are in the 5% category, and if you survive 4 years, you are in the 1% category.
Okay. Joydeep, any advice?
Yeah, I would say like one thing which resonates from what Shameek says is, finding the right partners, which is also extremely important. Like for example, in my case, I try to move really fast on an initiative in India by trying to forge or buy out a company, majority with partners who were a little inexperienced and maybe lacked the kind of experience that was needed to at least take a business international. And we tried about 1.5 years, and things actually did not fall into place. Where I guess, there also it's important in your startup journey to also decide at a point of time where the business idea does not work. So you should not be afraid to fail. So in my case, I failed in one business, and I haven't shuttered that business. It's still kind of stuttering on, but I hadn't fortunately put all my eggs in that basket, and I had spread it. And so I focused more on the Swedish side of things, which did well. But finding that partner ecosystem is extremely vital, because otherwise it can be a very lonely journey. And given the fact that we had not predicted, and we hit with a thing like pandemic, where you don't even go to office space, you're required to work from home. It can be a kind of a double whammy there. It's vital to find some like-minded people with whom you can share ideas. You can use them as a bouncing board. And one other important thing that I think is, especially with the pandemic and as a wake-up call, there's a lot of focus on social entrepreneurship, which means that whatever you do, think of the social angle to this, and the purpose should be bigger than just profiteering, profit making, or just trying to take that gap. It should be a little bit of a higher purpose to it. There, I think it is much easier to pitch this kind of ideas to today's, the venture capitalists, if they see the social dimension to this. So for me, for example, when I left my job, I was from the IT industry. I was like I can tell you, I was like probably a frog in the well there. And when I came out, and the first time I heard about sustainable development goals, I started, dwelling a little more into it. And then I understood its implication for different businesses, especially e-commerce. Then we started this platform specific for sustainable practices within e-commerce. How to make e-commerce climate friendly. Be it, like for example, we have developed solutions for carbon mapping, like for the Australian Packaging Association. So there is a very simple, every package which will arrive at your home will have a QR code. You can scan it and you can see the carbon footprint of that package. You can as well get instruction on how to dispose that package. That's also very important in Australia. Though here in Sweden, we are far more organized with the disposal part. We have this green, the brown terms, everything sorted out in a good way. But all that, which means that there has to be a higher purpose to it, and think more about a social impact in what you do next. Okay. So that would be my request.
I have a question for Shameek now. Shameek, how easy or hard it was to switch from a full-time job to a business?
So yeah, of course you have to do some amount of pondering and planning at your end, but I think Sweden that way is a good place because see, in my case, the biggest thing for me was that I have a young family. So me and my wife, we are married, of course, more than 12 years, 13 years now. But we have a kid who when I started was around 1.5 years, right? So because of the Swedish social support system, specifically education and healthcare being taken care of by the state, I think that is a very, very big plus, right? You do not have to worry that, okay, you have a roti kapda makan issue, right? At least the healthcare and the education is taken care of. Yeah, even if you're in the startup, you will do so much that you are able to take care of your daily needs. Of course, you take a cutback on your lifestyle. Your holidays go for a toss for at least a couple of years. You also take a big pay cut, which also affects your typical expenditures, monthly fund things and all that. But those are easy to manage given that you are taking this step back to take a leap forward, right? There. So that was a very, very big thing for me. Other than that, I think, again, I can say that for me, when I got into startup or got full-time into Trust Trace, and I felt enlivened because I think the hierarchy, the bureaucracy that a large company has, and there's no right or wrong with it. It is just that if it is an elephant, you need that machinery to run that organization. The nimbleness that the startup provides is a very, very, I would say, it gets you younger by at least 5 years. Maybe in my case, 10 years, because you just feel that you're just in the start of your career, you're building something absolutely from the ground. Yes, you will fall, but you will stand up faster and move faster. It is that nimble machine there. If you are able to balance your personal finances, I think that you are able to do it really well, and it is not such a difficult thing. And you need to have a lot of confidence in yourself and your team that, this is a phase of 2-3 years. You will come back to your earlier salary or earlier kind of benefits program in 3 years' time, if you do it well. Of course, if you don't do it well, of course, there's a risk to it. But I think with the kind of backup that you have in Sweden, you will never die of hunger, or you will never be you will not take a significant step back in your usual normal way of life.
Yes,
that was a big question for me.
So,
but of course, you need to discuss this with your partner. In our case, I think a lot of the financial responsibility came to my wife Soma, and I think she took it. It's a joint call you have to take, and of course, you have to talk to your extended family, your parents, and all. We are from India, so we always will keep the key people involved in that. In my case, I did that.
Yeah, of course. So, what do you think? How important is networking for Joydeep and Shameek both?
Yeah, can you repeat that, please?
How important is networking?
Networking is absolutely important. Here. Well, what can I say more than your example of your husband? He's one of the most networked person that I've met. So he'll be having lunch with one CEO, and then the next day he's somewhere in Spain, and then with his job in Reuters, probably he's meeting a lot. But what I want to tell here is, there are two ways of doing this. One way, of course, is we can all build a lot of connects, but also having those connect organized into the right baskets is also important. You have to know the exact kind of topic in which you can connect with that group of set of people. And networking connections are as good as you use them also. If you've networked with people and you haven't been feeding your network or not care to stay connected with them on some of the other common topics, they don't tend to be warm over a long period of time. So it's extremely vital, and for starting your business, and as for me, as I do business in different areas. I do business in healthcare. I do business in e-commerce. I do business in even some of it is in IT services. It's very important to know some of these industry champions there with whom you can run your ideas, you can get some backup, and eventually also you need their help with being able to sell more. I think networking is extremely vital especially if you want to come into entrepreneurial journey.
So, Shameek, do you have the same opinion?
Yeah. I think I would say if you are a person who is an introvert person, first become an extrovert before you become an entrepreneur. And you don't need to become an extrovert. You don't need to change your fundamental principles. You just need to present yourself to the world. And I think what Joydeep mentioned, don't just take, give. The give and take has to be together, because if you do not share what you have, because each and every one has got strengths and their weaknesses, I think the network provides a significant amount of support to cover up your weaknesses. And don't be embarrassed or ashamed of asking that you do not know something, because in fact, in my case, I have been totally upfront with our customers that no, we do not have this feature. Can you please tell us why you need this feature? And in I think Trust's early days, our product backlog was actually run by our customers. We were absolutely open and saying that no, we don't have, but we will build it for you. There. Same is the case when you work with partners. In fact, people with whom or companies whom we thought are our competition, when we started talking to them, we found that they were actually partners to us, right? Because as I told you, you are solving a world hunger problem. It is very, very naive for you or anybody to think that single-handedly you can solve a world hunger problem. You will need partners. You need networking at that level. Don't be ashamed, or it is my principle that I typically talk to non-tech people. I also talk to people who are not from my field. The cross-pollination of ideas that you can get from other people is tremendous. I never knew that trust-based solution can be relevant for BFSI or fintech people. It was just a chance meeting that we took with an investment banker who said that, oh, you know, whatever you are doing, we can run a complete incentivization program on this. So I say serendipity is the best moment when it comes to running a startup, because how your day starts, it can completely change by just a very, very interesting meeting. And you will have you will be like a cloud 9 by the end of the day.
Yeah, so my last question to both of you, because already we are late. Any advice to a person who wants to start a business? Just a few points if you want to add.
Take the big step, join the party.
Absolutely, but I also would add that do your own due diligence on yourself, especially your own SWOT analysis of what your strengths are, weaknesses are. If you see weaknesses, look for partners who might be able to cover those. And better is that you find people maybe you know from before, so there is some kind of trust already there between you. But when it comes to taking the plunge, it takes a dare to do it. So especially if you are on an easy job, if you are like Shameek and me, we are both probably fond of traveling. We have been on this kind of fast track life. So there's always a fear that you will lose a lot of things that you are acclimatized with. Mm-hmm. But once you take the plunge and you start diving into this new water, it's a beautiful life. It's a far more satisfying, and it broadens your outlook on life itself. I would say that I have grown many folds in terms of my outlook on how to make the world better for my children. My children have been influenced by how I think now, and that's also very important. So you start creating kind of a wave with yourself by which you start also catching other people in this wave. So take the plunge and it will take it there, but it is absolutely worth it. Absolutely worth it.
Okay, thank you for giving us very useful information and time. I hope, I believe that many will be benefited from your experience. Thank you so much.
We hope so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Joydeep. And
Thank you,
Shameek.
Joydeep. Bye.
Thank you both. Bye-bye.
रेडियो मेघपियोन, बीते हुए दिनों के यादें, कुछ गाने, कुछ बातें।